What's going on, everybody? Risky Ryan here, and today we're going to be talking about something even spookier than Halloween. We're going to be talking about the next market crash. So buckle yourself up because I know when it's going to happen, or at least I know the data that informs my assumptions about what is probably going to happen. Nothing in this video is financial advice, but you will definitely learn something. And if you do get any value out of this video, hit that like button because it helps the algorithm. Let's do this. First thing that we need to start out with is the rule of 10. This is probably the most important thing for you to know, and if you don't know what the rule of 10 is for the S&P 500, you're about to learn golden gem, golden nugget, whatever. You're going to learn something great. So since 1929, if you held the S&P 500, on average, you would get an 8% annual return. But if you missed 10 best days, which often come right after a crash, you would lose 13% a year on your average year. So holding through the volatility is absolutely important. It completely changes the complexion of your gains. And since 2015, you get 12% a year. The worst, without the 10 best days, you're getting minus 10%. So I don't play this game of, I think the crash is coming, let me move to cash. Like I'm scared, let me sell everything as things are crashing. No. The only way to really play this game is to slowly build a cash position, maybe slow down your DCAs, maybe start rotating some stuff into defensives as you feel like the market is getting frothy. How are we going to know the market is getting frothy? How do we know when the next crash is going to happen? Well, we can go back into history. We can see, well, how long does it take you? For instance, once you have a 10% correction, and then it recovers and it makes a new all-time high after that correction, how high does it go before the next one? Well, 91% of the time, the next 10% correction happens after 12 months later. So we had our last 10% correction back in April. There's a 91% chance that we will not get another 10% correction until April comes again. The people that are worried about, the floor is going to fall out from the bottom of this market right now, there's only like a 9% chance that that'll happen. 91% chance that, no, we're just chopping and we're going to keep moving higher. It also says, on average, 10 to 15% rally from all-time highs before the next 10% plus correction. At the moment, we're at about 10% above those previous all-time highs, before we started, in February, before we got liberated, that's where it was. So 10% higher, that's where we're at today. We didn't just get a 10% correction in the S&P 500 back in April. No, we got a 20% correction back in April. Now, what does that mean? It means that the next 10%, and these are 10% corrections, right? This isn't time until the next 20% correction, smaller. On average, 13.8 months till the next 10% correction. Median is 12 months, so pretty much 1 year before you get that next correction. The range, though, is 50 to 30 months, so it's a pretty wide range. But that's kind of what you're dealing with the timeline. And what kind of rally can we expect? Well, we can expect a 20 to 30% rally from all-time highs before the next 10% correction. That's massive. That is much more. Notice how everything's pretty symmetrical. Isn't that interesting? Everything's pretty symmetrical. You get a waterfall decline, often you get a V-shaped rally. If you get a slow bear market, you get a slow digging yourself out. Everything seems to be pretty symmetrical. But our key takeaways here right now are 12 months, 20%. That's roughly what you can expect. There's another thing that you have to take into account. The Federal Reserve just cut interest rates, and they cut interest rates within percent of the all-time high when they did it. So when they are cutting while the market's at all-time highs, in every single instance that's been tracked since, I don't even know when this is back to, 80, 1 year later, you're green. And half the time, you're very green. You're like 20% green, 15% green a year later. So let's bring this all together and take a look at a chart. Okay, so this is where we're at today. We're here. And this green red is kind of my basic idea of what I think to expect for the next year. This green box right here, this is 12 months later, should be at 20 to 30% higher than the previous all-time highs. This red box is when I believe the correction and where the correction will take place. And this little circle right here, that's where we're supposed to be, where we are supposed to be 1 year after the rate cut. So this right here is more than 1% higher than a year later from when we got the rate cuts. This is where we're supposed to be. This is sort of like the higher end right now. What's interesting about where this lands, we are heading into 2026, which is a midterm election. Those elections often mark the worst turns in the market, usually the worst years. And so what's also interesting about 2026, it is America's 250th birthday. I don't think that there is a giant conspiracy to make the stock market super nice looking as it goes into that date, but I'm sure Donald Trump will do whatever the hell he can to make sure that that happens. And right here is June and July. It's green box. Right as we head into it. Then the red box starts. We're in the correction area within those like 4 months preceding the election. It works out really perfect if you really think about it. Makes a lot of sense. Then once we get some clarity or we get through the other end, or sometimes the market just lifts ahead of time because all the fear is baked in, I think it starts to lift. And then after that, we'll have to reassess. But essentially, this green box, price is going to be in this green box at this time. Not financial advice, but that's what the odds say. 90% of the time, like the vast majority of the time, it's going to be in this green box somewhere. So if between now and then, price is down here or something, you can pretty much buy these dips knowing that we're going to be in an okay place once 2027 hits. Now, what am I going to do? What is my plan? So the 10%, 20% correction or whatever, like the top can start before you get to minus 10%. You know what I mean? So I plan on building up a cash position the closer we get to stocks. Start to sell your winners, start to trim your winners, start to build up a little bit of cash, start to go into defensive sectors like precious metals, into healthcare and utilities. Want to kind of take on a defensive posture, especially if once we get here, we're going to be at like all-time highs and things are going to be really rosy for a long time. And I think that we're going to have bumps. I mean, see this red mark down here? Stretch of what I think could happen? A minus 7% move. And let me take this mask off. I can't really see what I'm doing, and I want to talk about specific S&P 500 levels. Okay. 1 year after the rate cut, we're supposed to be up 14%. So where is that level? That means that September next year, we should be at roughly 7,500 S&P 500. And right here,
we're 20 to 30% higher 12 months later. So this is where I think you're going to get your top, and you're going to get your correction. And then I think that we should be moving. And this, by the way, this is my Gann. So this Gann level right here, this is the arc. Arcs are hard to get through. So it only makes sense that we bounce off it, come over it, retest it, and then maybe, crash through it one more time before establishing it as support. Chart plays out. But this is, according to the statistics, according to history, what should happen. And if you're counting against this happening, most of the time you're wrong. So I like to live within reality. Hopefully you do too. If you like this video, hit me with a like button. If you have a different prediction or another piece of information that you think that I should know about that would add to this picture, please let me know down below. Don't forget to hit subscribe. And until next time, Risky Ryan out.